Hello everyone, it's Risky here making another video. And sorry for, not really uploading. This is something I'm going to try to do more consistent as the NFL season is starting to come up. And honestly, it's on me. I've had a busy life, I've had school, I've had work, and I have had enough time, but this is something I really like to do and I want to take more seriously. So if you are interested, please like, please subscribe, and leave a comment for any type of videos that you would like. Now, this is something I've been thinking about for a while now. I've been seeing it on Twitter, and people have been putting up the question, who has the most pressure going into the season? And now thinking about it, I thought about the quarterbacks because quarterbacks are the biggest answer, the biggest position. And I was saying, where does every quarterback land going into the season? Who has the most pressure? Who has the least pressure on them? So let's start right away with Aaron Rodgers, which I think Aaron Rodgers is C. I don't think he has a lot of pressure on him. People don't have a lot of expectations on him. Also, by the way, S is going to be the most pressure. D is going to be the least pressure, just to put that out of the way. But I don't think he has the most pressure on him. The only thing I would say is legacy defining, which I don't really think it's going to define his legacy, especially with seeing how people still react after the Jets years. You already have your opinion on Rodgers. I would just say C, just because the Steelers have that playoff tradition. They make the playoffs every year. So if they don't make it, I think that could hurt Rodgers a little bit, but not enough to really talk about his legacy. Anthony Richardson, I would say S. This is the answer I did not see a lot on Twitter. And I was really surprised because Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, is really just he's right there towards being a backup at this point. If he can't beat out Daniel Jones and he can't take out that job, or even if he beats out Daniel Jones, he gets benched, then he's going to be a backup for probably the most of his career going forward. Baker Mayfield now. Baker's interesting. I also want to put C or D. I would say it would be higher, but I think not depending, but I would say where he was earlier in his career through the struggles, people aren't going to put a lot of pressure on him because he's playing better than he did. But I'm a big fan of Tampa. I love the way that they run their team. I love the way that they draft. Like, they have such a really good roster, and they should be winning. And they are winning. They're going to the playoffs the last 2 years, but I want to see them make a conference championship. And I think I think if they don't do it this year, if they go to a wild card in their exit, there's gonna be more pressure on them. But again, going into this year, I think if they just make the playoffs and let's just say they lose wild card, I don't think we're gonna be looking at Baker as I don't think going into the season he has a lot of pressure on him. I'll say that. I think going into next year, that's a whole different conversation. But going into this season, I don't think he does. Bo Nix, I'm going to say Bo Nix, I'm going to put in B category. Just because he had a solid rookie year, he had a really good finish. But the way the Broncos are now, it looks like they're really aggressive to trying to win. And if Bo Nix has a bad year, especially with what they added just around their team, but also just offensively, and he disappoints, it's going to be bad for him. I don't see him honestly disappointing. I was very mixed on him during the draft process, but I'm really big on Nix now. I like the way he progressed throughout the year. And just overall, he just looked like a better quarterback towards the end. He still has his mistakes, but Sean Payne was able to build an offense around him to kind of, minimize them the best. I don't think he has a lot of pressure on him going into this year, but he at least needs to be on the same tier that he was last year. Brock Purdy, I would just put D. He just got paid. Um, yeah, he just got paid. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of pressure on him. They have the easiest schedule in the league this year, and also they added. Well, no, they didn't add. But I just missed my point actually. But anyways, I think there's almost virtually no pressure on him this year. If they disappoint, it's going to be that they lost a lot of pieces. Maybe guys are getting hurt, and if they are successful, he'll get a lot of the credit for it because he's the quarterback managing it. I really don't think there's any pressure on Brock Purdy. Bryce Young, I'm going to put an S as well. This was a big answer a lot of people were talking about. If Bryce Young does not have, or if he does not build off of what he did the second half of last year, there's going to be some rough conversations about him. I think he'll get this year, and unless he is terrible, I don't think he will get another year. Or I'm saying unless he is terrible, I think he will get will get another year. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't know. I like Bryce Young, and I think people have high expectations or higher expectations than they should with him. But I definitely think he's a capable enough quarterback to be a starter in this league. He really just has to show this year, and that's why I think there's a lot of pressure on him because Carolina didn't just he's not just the number one pick. They traded up a lot for him, and they want to see it, especially after getting benched his second year. Caleb, I'm gonna put Caleb in A, and the reason I think A is more of public perception. He was the number one overall pick. He's a guy that is seen as this this generational talent. And they and honestly, they added Luther Burden, Joe Tooney, they added Colston Loveland. They just got Ben Johnson. If he cannot take steps up and improve his deep ball, improve how he is in the pocket, there's going to be rough conversations for him going into his third year. Like after this year, going into his third, I do think there's pressure on him. People are expecting the Bears to be a lot better and being a winning team. I think he could definitely step up, but if we're just talking about pressure that's around them going into this year and do they have to succeed, Caleb is one of those top quarterbacks that needs to. Cam Ward, simple. I'm going to put in D. He's a rookie quarterback, and everyone's kind of acknowledging he's in a bad situation. No one is talking about him as well, which is big. Well, honestly, big for him is what I'm saying, is that he's not really having a lot of hyper expectations around him. He played in one big school for 1 year in college, playing in a very small market. Really doesn't have much talk about him, so I don't think there's a lot of pressure for him. CJ Stroud, I'm also gonna put in this B tier. B tier is gonna be like the mid tier. I personally love CJ Stroud. He's probably my fifth best QB in the league or sixth around there. I think he's a really good talent. I think a lot of the hate around him last year wasn't deserved. I think he played really good last year, despite what his statistics say. And he just the only thing I would say pressure is the Texans need to take that step up. They're winning games in the playoffs, but they're one game, they'll win, and then they're gone the next round. They need to change that. They need to get to a championship. And that's where I think if he has another year of what he had last year, where he did kind of derail towards the end of the season, then that's not going to be a good look for him. He's going to have to step it up a little bit, and just overall, what do I say for CJ Stroud? He's a really good quarterback. I'm not taking anything away from him. He just needs to be more consistent. I guess that's the word I will use. But I am a big CJ Stroud believer. Now for Dak, this is tough. I am going to say B just for his job wise. I don't know the contract situation of Dallas and him. So I don't know if they can get out of his contract or what that would look like. But Jerry Jones, as of recent, seems very frustrated. And if Dak gets hurt again, or maybe he underperforms like he did last year before he got hurt, then I really could see a scenario where they push off of him. I don't think him in the NFL aspects and the NFL world has a lot of expectations on him and expects him to rise. But I'm saying for him to stay in Dallas, and I'm just going to talk about the situation in Dallas and the expectations there and the performance, then I'm going to put him in that mid tier where he does have some pressure on him, and he's going to have to at least show similar to what he did like 2 to 3 years ago to keep his job in Dallas. Drake May, I'm going to put his C tier. Big Drake May guy, UNC legend. The only reason why it's not up there with his fellow draft picks and Knicks and Caleb is because he showed enough last year, and I don't think his offense is nearly as talented as Knicks or Caleb's. Also, having a defensive coach, I think there'll be excuses about that. I think there'll be excuses about the lack of talent he has on offense. The only thing he needs to do is just show what he did last year and take a step up from them. Now, there is pressure around him going into the second year, but they've rebuilt the offensive line. It's good enough compared to what it was. And they added at least Diggs. They added Kyle Williams. So we'll see. He should take a step up, but I don't think they make significant changes that would produce a lot of pressure on Drake May going into the season. Gino is another guy. I don't think Gino is under a lot of pressure at all. I would say D tier. Bad situation in Seattle. He's now going to the Raiders, where he has a pretty solid contract. The Raiders also don't have really a rookie quarterback behind him. They do have Cam Miller, who was a 6th-round pick from North Dakota State. I'm not gonna say that's gonna challenge Gino, but at the end of the day, I don't think Gino has a lot of pressure on him going into the season of either being replaced because they just gave him another contract, or also the situation is not great. That offense is not really that good, and I could see a scenario where if he underperforms, he could still be the quarterback the following year because Raiders might not even be in position to take another rookie quarterback. So now going on to Jalen Hurts, the pressure Jalen Hurts has this year is really nothing. He's able to just operate, manage that offense again. They just won the Super Bowl. As long as they don't miss the Super Bowl, which not miss the Super Bowl, miss the playoffs, I think they'll be fine. But I don't think there's a lot of pressure for Jalen Hurts going into the season. He already has the Super Bowl. He already went to 2, so there really isn't much for him. Goff, though, Goff could change, but right now I'm going to put him at B. It's because after losing Ben Johnson, they just lost Frank Ragnow, part of the offense. Detroit's going to be interesting. They lost a lot of pieces this offseason. And I really could see a scenario where if Detroit has a disappointing year, maybe Goff disappoints, he can't get moved. I really can see a scenario where Goff gets moved. Or the talks about Detroit are going to be different now if Goff disappoints. I could see a scenario where he disappoints. I'm not the biggest Jared Goff guy. But I really could see a scenario where if they don't get back to the conference championship or maybe even divisional round, or they have a worse regular season, I really could see a scenario where they are a little bit disappointing compared to the last 2 years. He could be gone. That's just something I see. Jaden Daniels, pressure. We're talking about pressure here. I want to put D. Yeah, I really don't think there's a lot of pressure on Jaden Daniels going into this year. I think a lot of people, I'm starting to see now more than ever, besides Washington fans, that their offense and also their team in general just really isn't that good. I'm not the biggest believer of Washington going to the season. And if Jaden Daniels does regress a little bit, I don't think it's him. I'm not a big fan of the offense. I think they could have done more on the offensive line. Of course, they got Laramie Tunsil, but he's been hurt the last few years. He's starting to age. Debo really doesn't move me. That team is very old. They're the oldest team in the NFL, and I don't like it. I just don't like the way Washington has built their team. I think Daniels will still have a really good year next year. I don't doubt Jaden Daniels' ability. I just think if they disappoint, there's no pressure on Jaden Daniels. I just think having the rookie year he just can't completely fall off, which I don't think he will because he's a pretty smart quarterback. I don't think there's much pressure on him. I think people are starting to realize that team isn't that good, and if whatever happens to them, we'll be fine. McCarthy. I'm gonna go A. I think McCarthy has a lot of pressure on him going into this year because we've seen what Kevin O'Connell done with lesser talented quarterbacks, like the year he had Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, and they won 7 games, but they were kind of competitive. It's just if McCarthy could disappoint in a Kevin O'Connell offense, there might be quick conversations right away of, is he the quarterback? Is he the guy? Is he one and done? Do they bring in a quarterback the next year? Because this is a team that's ready to win now. They have one of the best duos at receiver in the league. You got Hawkinson, one of the best offensive lines that they even beefed up even more by adding Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. They made some moves for it was Jonathan Allen this offseason. They're ready to win, and if McCarthy can't take them to the playoffs, or he just isn't good enough to really carry this team, or at least, push this off a little bit, I could see him being out real soon. The pressure for Joe Burrow, you say what you want, but he's a great quarterback. Oh, he might not make the playoffs. His defense is one of the worst, and actually the worst in the NFL. I can't put blame on him. Flacco, D, and I also think the whole Browns quarterback room is D. There's no pressure on them, no expectations. Jordan Love, I'm going to put A. Jordan Love is a guy who has the talent. He has enough around him to be a better performer in the playoffs. And I think conversation started last year when they lost to Philly. And if he can't do it this year, if he can't put together a full, solid, good NFL season that leads it to the playoffs and has a good playoff game, I don't know. I think conversations will start to be had about Jordan Love, even like louder ones. Josh Allen, I'm gonna put a B, and it's not because of personal with him. It's just you have to prove to be Mahomes. You are 0-4 against Mahomes. You have to show that you can beat Mahomes in the playoffs, which is something you haven't done yet. And because of that, I have to move you up. I was thinking D, and then once I started thinking about C, and I'm like, no, because conversations would be had about Josh Allen if he can't beat him. Justin Fields. Well, I would also say with him, he's a good playoff performer, Josh Allen, but he has to win these crucial games, and they're not all his fault. And I'm not saying that he is at fault for even most of these games, but he still has to take that extra step to win these. Justin Fields. I'm going to put him A. I thought about S. I'm still debating S. I'm going to keep him A for now. Justin Fields, I'm not the biggest fan of as a quarterback. Really don't think he's that good. You can win with him just because honestly, I can't say. Yeah, the Jets could win with him because if their defense is able to play well and they're able to be healthy, you really don't need a great quarterback at the helm. You just kind of run it with Fields. But I think if Fields disappoints this year, his contract isn't so great where it's like they have to keep him as a starter. They could move on, bring in competition. I don't know. I don't think he's secure, locked in. I think he has pressure on him. Garrett Wilson, I think they just extended him. They made some pieces. They're trying to finish up the offensive line. They just drafted Mason Taylor. They're trying to add pieces to this, and their talent on offense is still young. So if your quarterback can't get it done, they might be looking right away to get a new one. Herbert, A with him as well. The way he's perfect for the Chargers and Harbaugh. That's why I was debating putting him down because there isn't pressure for the expectations of the Chargers. But when we talk about playoff time, you need to show up. The pressure's all on you. You need to show up. And that's something you haven't been able to do. You've disappointed. See, Herbert's making me tired. But you need to show up in the playoffs, something that you haven't shown yet. Kyler is so interesting because I have no expectations of Kyler, but I keep seeing people trying to push it. His contract is one that I know you can't really get out of if you are the Cardinals yet. So it's honestly like I'm gonna put C, kind of similar to these guys, where it's like you don't have high enough expectations to really like these guys. I would say the guys in Group B have higher expectations than Kyler Murray and what they are expected to do in the NFL or for their team. But also Kyler's just in a scenario where there's no pressure on him, where no one really talks about Kyler. He already has a contract, and it's one where the team can't get out of it. At this point, it's just perception of how people will view you. Lamar is B as well. See, it's tough because I would have him higher up on this list, but you kind of can't. But just because he has the MVP and he has the regular season accomplishments. But if we were talking about playoffs, I would have him as S. He's a guy that needs to show up in the playoffs. He hasn't. He should have more pressure on him. I just think the pressure. He has more pressure just performing in the playoffs. That's as simple as that. Or conversations are going to be had about Lamar. We know he's going to get to the playoffs. We know he's going to have a great regular season. It's not that. But when we get to January, same thing. That's why I put him and Josh on the same tier. They just have to show to win. More, I would put him a tier above Allen just because Lamar actually has to play and show up in the playoffs compared to compared to Josh Allen. And people are going to put, why does Burrow have no expectations? It's because Burrow has a worse team than both of these guys, and he's still able to put up similar statistics to them as well. It's as simple as that. If Burrow doesn't make the playoffs again, it's not going to hurt him too much because of how terrible that team is. But anyways, let's just keep going. Stafford expectations, or pressure. I mean, I would put C tier. I don't think there's a lot on him. He already has his ring. The Rams are a good enough young team to get to the playoffs, but like just seeing their roster, I don't know if they could really beat Philly. They almost did last year. But I think if they go to the playoffs and they lose, there's not going to be a lot of pressure on Stafford. They might move off him because of age, but that's a whole different conversation than like his actual ability. Penix, I want to put in B. I see a lot of expectations for Michael Penix going into this year. The Falcons are a team that already has a young offense, and it looks like they're trying to be a little more aggressive and win now, or not win now, but at least win their division and make the playoffs. And they're expecting a lot out of Penix, and there is pressure on him to win. So I have to put him in this similar tier. Different than these guys, of course, but I just think where the Falcons are right now, what they expect from Michael Penix is he has to be better than what he was last year. And people are expecting that from him. Mahomes is D. He's the best quarterback in the league. Russell Wilson, I'm also going to put D. This might be biased because I am a Giants fan, but I also think everyone's writing out Russ. No one has expectations or pressure of Russ or the Giants. So if the Giants lose, it's like, okay, like who cares? That's the way at least I see it. So Darnold pressure. I think Darnold is B for pressure because he did just get the contract. He's a starter for Seattle now. And I do see a scenario where if he goes to Seattle and he isn't good, now you got the claim that you are just a Kevin O'Connell merchant and you might not get another starting position, at least for a while. So I'm not saying a while, but like another year or two. Like he might be back up again. Seattle has Milroe that they drafted, so Milroe could be a starter again. I don't know. He actually has the ball out this year. I might put him A. Trevor is another guy that's like B or C. I think it's slightly above Kyler because people talk about him and have higher expectations for him. But again, he already got paid. He's now in a new offense that you have Brian Thomas now. You have Travis Hunter. You now are expected to be more explosive. He is expected now to play better. And I definitely think this is like a year where if he doesn't show up, he doesn't perform, that people are going to write out Trevor Lawrence. People who haven't already. Tua, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Tua. Especially the state Miami's in right now. Their offensive line is terrible. I feel like a lot of people don't have high expectations like they had throughout the years. And I think you're not really expecting a lot out of Tua, so you're not really having a lot of pressure on him as a quarterback. If he just has a simple year, no one's going to really say anything about him. And Tyler Shough, I might put A or S. I'm going to put him A, and the reason why I think maybe S. I think he might be S for pressure because they didn't put a lot of capital into him. It was a second-round pick. It's a new coaching staff, and the Saints are projected not to be a good NFL team next year. And due to all these combinations, we see scenarios like this where teams will draft a quarterback, they suck, and then they get rid of that quarterback the next year. And I can see that happening with Shough, where the Saints suck. Shough is out because he didn't have a good year, and now he's just going to be a backup for the rest of his career. That's why he needs to have a good year. Whether they win or lose, if he's at least having a good year statistically and showing them he could be a starting quarterback, then now he just has a job in the NFL and will at least be given one more year. That's why I think he has pressure, because these quarterbacks that get picked on day 2, there's not a lot expected out of them, and they're easily to be replaceable. So now here's my list of the 2025 quarterbacks that have the most and least pressure. Now let me know if you agree, if you disagree, what you agree, disagree with. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.